As always, it's a delight to have you join us on this program, Road to EDO 2024. Now, this is a forum that gives us the opportunity to bring on board, one-on-one, you have the opportunity to see all the aspirants. When I mean all the aspirants, those that have actually subscribed to be on the platform, to share their dreams, share their aspirations, tell you, Edolites, what they have for you if they have the mandate to represent you at Osadebe Avenue. My name is Daniel Praise Osadebe, your host, and of course today on the show we have our guest. He's been here, and of course he's still here. I like to refer to him as one of the youngest among the aspirants so far. He's in person of Paul Walker Okuboa. Good evening, compliments of the season. Merry Christmas.
Wishing you the same. Thank you for having me.
Well, now, take us through. You've been here for a while now. We'd like to take this conversation to the grassroots. There seems to be a disconnection to an extent. Some stakeholders are saying it's been a while we have a governor who have a direct touch with the people at the grassroots. Is there anything you can do differently to sustain that momentum?
Well, at some point, it will seem like a statement that is also shredded with hypocrisy, because I find it that yes, I find it that there are some class of persons who scream for grassroots development, and as such, they scream for someone who is within the grassroots structure. But when it comes to support, they give the support to strangers, and they give support to those who have been able to monetize the process of our politics. So that's what me just screams hypocrisy. However, it is only fair and natural that when you live in Edo State, you will be able to understand the people of Edo State. You will be able, because you are part of the people of Edo State. And I don't need to start screaming whether or not I understand the grassroots, because my middle name is Grassroots. I don't know any other thing. I don't live among the high and mighty. I don't live among the wealthy ones. If I organize a birthday, for example, today, it is my carpenters, my mechanics, and every other person who works around me that will attend such birthday. You will not hear of the names of the high and mighty, because I don't frolic around the high and mighty. I do not belong to the class of the high and mighty. As much as people envy to be in that class, I don't, because I understand that for me, peace is something I covet more than anything. I like to be incognito at some point. Some young persons will crave stardom, you know, this idea of being a musical icon and being known and all of that. I prefer my calmness, I prefer my peace, I prefer being incognito. So as far as grassroots goes, we are the grassroots. And that's why we're interested in developing the grassroots. That's why we're interested in developing the people. That's why we have formulated our policy programs and ideas to engage the people with. And it is our hope and expectation that perhaps for the first time in a long time in Edo State, there will not be it won't be the politics of business as usual, where the high and mighty names come up, occupy the billboards, occupy the radios and TVs, and then they are not actually talking to the people. We want to talk with the people. We want to be able to sell our mandate to the people. Like, for example, when I keep saying that without ideas in leadership space is business as usual, because there is nothing else you are coming there with. You're not going to come with your money. It is the people's money. So naturally, your resume for coming there should not even be the number of PhD or degrees you have, or how well you speak English language. It is the common sense I have been able to put together that the people can relate with and tell themselves, if this is done, then we can push ahead. Like when I keep saying that some of the things that got us into the race is like a got pushed, you know, to the wall. It had no option to turn and face the process. We have always screamed ideas in leadership space. I remember there was a local government one time in EDO. He's late now, Victor Inobakai. His secretary Joshua Agboy can attest to what I'm about to say. When we pushed an idea behind the building of Uselu Market, but what we had in our thoughts in Uselu Market were gigantic structure. As a matter of truth, what we had in mind was a structure that can generate its own electricity via its own waste. And then I had gone as far as bringing an investment banker from the US, inviting one to come have a meeting with the local government chairman on how to go about this. That's to tell you that we, for a long time, be thinking beyond our age and be thinking beyond.
Now.
Yes, it's well about that now. At the same time, I remember I suggested to the late local government chairman then that the public school children and their uniforms it just looks a reflection of poor governance, and as such, he should do a uniform rekitting for the student. He thankfully did it, and not only did he do it, he wore the uniform of the schools as part of engaging with the students of the school. These were ideas we brought to the local government chairman, and we are saying that we are yet to bring even more staggering ideas to governance. For example, I look at the educational structure in Edo State, and all I see is just surface. First of all, just like the plaster of Paris, POP, is a magnificent pillars, are magnificent ideas by France to give a gargantuan impression of buildings. So it is with every institution. Okay. Students are supposed to go to schools and feel the pride of place in going to government-owned schools. I dare to say that currently Edo State is ranked 8th among the states in Nigeria according to federal allocations, what they get. And on revenue, Edo State is churning in a lot in terms of revenue. But do you know these public schools that were built by the governor of Borno State, which in fact is a Boko Haram ravaged state, a state that needs more security vote, of course, put into security. The schools in Borno State, Google them. Public schools in Borno State, Google them, and you'll be ashamed to tell yourself that this is Edo State and this is school, this is education. So
are you saying we are going to have better education, better environments for learning for our students? Is that what you're saying?
Deba,
is it going to be a priority for your government?
Deba, you know why I'm happy? The reason I'm happy is that we're young. We are the ones you would describe as the underdog. The big names will come here and speak as to the extent to which they know. We will be talking on real substance and real issues. Now let me say this, in the course of Corona, I did a project analysis. And the project analysis was how to create wealth with education, so that teachers will begin to live above their little means. That way, you bring the scholars into the teaching profession. Do you know that no matter the training you conduct in public government schools today, you don't have smart eggheads teaching in public schools because of the cost?
Share with us some of these tips, how teachers, because the truth is, poor working condition, poor remuneration is some of the problems teachers are facing, Edo State in particular. Do you think you can quickly share some of these ideas? Now,
Deba, like I said, ideas is what we came to engage people with. Now, let's put this very simply.
We'll put it.
On education, sometime in the course of Corona, I saw an opportunity because everybody was indoors. I saw an opportunity to bring education to people's homes because they were not allowed to come outside. So I built a program then, brainact.xyz. It was running on the internet space. And on brainact.xyz, you can literally hire just about any teacher. So what we were doing then, we created a portal space where if Deba was a teacher and he's good at what he teaches, Deba would prepare his video slides and upload. We'll give you a URL, you upload into our system, and people will go to the different classes, select the sort of tutor they want, and then they'll pick the best tutor and get engaged by the best tutor. Okay. Now, of course, brainact.xyz wasn't free. With a little, a meager sum, a token, you access the portal. Now, think in this direction. If a state government were to be as intentional as we were to create education in that pattern and then make it more participatory, what you do is, first of all, you are creating rooms for scholars to come in, people who are passionate about teaching, who perhaps wouldn't want to teach because the meager sum they earn from teaching. And then even because I remember in that way we got teachers even as far as India who were teaching on our portal, brainact.xyz. We got teachers as far as India who were teaching subjects like maths, physics, chemistry on that portal. Now, I simply ask the question, as a state government, look at what we call education today. Students still go to classrooms. I'm not talking of infrastructure, which for me is zero. I'm not even talking of infrastructure, which is zero. Because if I compare states in Edo State, schools in Edo State with schools in Borno State, the evidence is what you find when you Google schools in Borno State and when you go around Edo State and see the schools there. So I'm not even talking about infrastructure. We're talking of cerebral content that is capable of improving the landscape, the process of learning, and then bringing wealth to the teachers.
Okay. So now you are saying, if given the privilege to get to Osadebe Avenue as the #1 citizen of the state, we're going to have a better learning environment.
The first thing I shall do, Deba,
okay.
The first thing I shall do is to completely animate the curriculum of the entirety of the teaching process, from preschool, basic schools, junior secondary schools, and senior secondary schools, and even dare to animate that of tertiary institutions. Because here's what happens.
But talk is cheap.
Now imagine, no, it's not cheap. This is practicable. Now let me explain why I say it's practicable. Because I've done it before. Okay. Now let's tell you this. If you were to be a biology student and you are, of course, taught by a teacher the stomach of a named ruminant animal, for example, because you do not see a ruminant animal, you create a mental picture of what a ruminant animal, because you've been told that ruminant animals are animals that feeds on grass. Examples are goats, cattle, and the rest. Now, every other thing that leads from the process of chewing, mastication, and all down to excretion, you are made to imagine them because you don't know them. You have not seen them. So when they tell you that when the cattle pick up the grasses, for example, that certain enzymes in the saliva acts on the complex molecules of the grasses, and then breaks them into simpler molecules, and when the cattle begins to chew, peristaltic movement will move down certain muscles will move down the esophagus, get to the omasum, abomasum, rectum, and when it's in these different chambers, different things act on it to break it down before eventually it's mineralized by the body, and then it goes down to defecation as waste. You are creating mental picture. But if I was able to inspire the Ministry of Education, for example, to animate everything we have been discussing since, assuming I was teaching, you'll be watching them, you'll be listening to them. That way, such mental picture that you were naturally supposed to create ab initio has been created for you. So the process of learning has become improved just now. That way, even if you do not read, you can form a note.
Okay, I would like us to push a little bit further. The issue of court killings is a major problem in Edo State. It's a major problem. This has been a kind of reoccurrence that we've been, for ages, Edo State is known for having serious court activities that leads to killing, taking of lives. Now, do you think you can help sanitize the state and get rid of these guys?
Now,
is it possible? Can you do it?
Deba, it's as though you are reading my mind. When I was driving here just now, I got through Plymouth Road. I wanted to go through Olia to connect with TV Road. I saw boys in their numbers in the streets with sticks, cutlasses, and knives marching, and then every car was reversing, running.
Right.
As just few minutes ago, I was coming here, and every car had to take, intersecting roads to go navigate. I was even calling someone, Thomas Ado, to tell him this is what is happening on the road in case I come late. This is to tell you that I'm not only speaking of this thing. These are the things we experience and we live it every now and then. But here's the reality.
So how do we come out of it?
Here's the reality. I am not against fraternities and brotherhood. What I have a problem with is cultism. To the extent that you and I must also be very truthful and factual here so that God will forgive us. The political class have armed cultism to the extent that these people who feel enabled to keep perpetuating this dastardly act are sponsored by the political class. Because when it's time for election, it is this sort of people they use to commit mayhem in polling units and police. Because sensible people who want to stay alive or who are averse to crime or violence will not perpetuate this sort of thing.
So can Edo State under your watch come out of these activities?
By God's grace, I'm not a member of any confraternity. The only confraternity I belong to is Jesus Christ Confraternity. And because I'm not a member of any confraternity, it's easier for me to frolic around with every single confraternity. The underlying principle for me remains survivor. Every single person you have attached just now as cultists. And then we have seen so much bloodshedding in Edo State. For me, the first thing that is on the line is survivor. What I intend to do is to come up with youthful engagement to the extent that even if you were to indulge in cultism, you won't even have the time to indulge in cultism. See, it is an idle mind that they say is still the devil's workshop. If we have serious engagements for our youth, we may not have cultism proliferate to this extent. Yes, we may not be able to stamp it out completely. It may remain as fraternity, as brotherhood, the primary reason upon which the founding fathers founded it in the first instance. But it has translated to youthful exuberance, wherein it now takes a coloration of violence and macheting and killings. For me, it is the upper political class that has enabled this process, that has encouraged this process, because most of the politicians in Edo State are patrons of confraternities. I did not drink water when I just said this one. I am not afraid to say it. So how do you stand part confraternity when those who are speaking against the vices are the backdoor sponsors of same vices? So sanity will only return on one condition, that you do not have the man at the top as the one who is giving power to one side to oppress the other side. But rather, you have a man at the top of the office who is concentrating and focused on how to make life better for everybody. You see, the body language of he who occupies that seat will naturally resonate. If your body language does not support violence, violence itself is a spirit. It begins to give way because it has no bedding ground. And let me say this, for example. The political squabbles that has ensued in Edo State for the past nearly 12 years or what have you has also encouraged cultism. We find out that the political class are constantly battling. And of course, while they are battling, they are wasting the people's resources. Once upon a time, we saw in this state where boys will hijack a process, even hit a service senator on his head and remove his cap on the airport. We will see boys marching in the street. And of course, they have the backings of those in the political class.
So you're saying your government, if you have the privilege to lead Edo State, won't associate with these guys, and you are saying you will get rid of them headlong out of the state.
You see, the language get rid of them. Let's not misconstrue it.
That's what we want to understand.
As to killing them, they are part of society.
Okay.
Are you getting my point? My focus would be to engage them. Of course, I've read through the tenets of some fraternities and what formed them and how they formed them. They are mostly brotherhoods. I have no place in that. That's why I have no right to speak on that. But what I have a right to speak on, if I have the office as the chief security officer of the state, is why should brotherhood cascade to violence erupting into killings? These areas will be intentional on solving them. We'll be intentional on nipping them on the board. And of course, when we improve on security, when we digitalize operations of security, it naturally will also help us fight such insurgencies.
Okay. Now, let's now look at it this way. So many people feel when a particular person gets to office, they don't checkmate what the previous administration has done. And that comes in a way they just try to focus on delivering good governance to the people and shying away from whatever shady deals the previous administration has done. If you get to office, will you probe your predecessor?
The language probe, as we are used to, sounds like troubleshooting. Now, the reason why I said it sounds like troubleshooting is that it is only natural that you check your past.
Will you bring them to book?
Now, let me say this. Let me say this.
If they've done shady deals.
Let me say this. For almost 16 years, it is friends of friends that have ruled Edo State. Friends of friends, and at the end, they are all sharing from the spoils. So a lot of secrets have been contained within Edo State that have, of course, not been fine-tuned over the time. I remember there was a time a certain bishop in Edo State, Bishop Uche, I think, petitioned an SY governor, and nothing was done about it. Because you and I understand the power of incumbency at the federal level and the roles it could play at the state level. But what I want to do as a person is a fresh start. I tell you the honest truth. The best option would be a fresh start. Because when you bring in honey, the ants will naturally come. There is a way you avert trouble and seek to move the people forward, other than to spend the time of creativity battling and fighting. Because for those days, these friends of friends, what they've literally done over a long period of time is fight with the people's commonwealth and the people's resources. I'm not interested in fighting. I'm only interested in solving problems. By nature, I have a natural inkling for problems, for solving problems, other than accentuating problems. I find the problem of poverty somewhat ravaging lives in Edo State. I'm interested in solving that. I find the problem of insecurity, wastefulness of lives and properties in Edo State. I'm interested in solving that. I see poor architecture in terms of infrastructure. I'm interested in solving that. I noticed for the past 16 years, friends of friends who once attracted 30 billion to avert the stormwater project, we still have erosion ravaging the length and breadth of Edo State. I'm very interested in solving that. I would rather spend my God-given intellect and ideas on solving
the finances
problems
that were released or borrowed for that project not done will just be swept under the carpet.
Deba, For the past 16 years, who has probed them? Who has asked questions? Does the state have an auditor general? What has the auditor general been doing? Who has asked the auditor general questions as to what have you audited from the previous accounts? You see, when I say that they trumped democracy, they mutilated democracy. When they turn local government elections to crowning that answers a structure for them, it's all part of the mutilation of democracy. It's where, when they get to office, what they literally do is continuation. You see, when you can still unabated when the structure that should ask you questions are loyal to you in the first instance.
You've said you will give local government autonomy. You've said that on this platform several times. But most governors, when they get to office, we see different things from what they say during the campaign period and all that. And will you interfere in the business of the House of Assembly?
You see, 6 governors in Nigeria so far has granted financial autonomy to the legislature. And I believe so strong in my heart that if you are not interested in power and the hegemony of power, and if you're not interested in the looting and the process of enriching yourself and your friends, you should not be afraid to be accountable.
So the legislative arm will be giving free hands to do their work.
Here's the reason why I said,
interference.
Here's why I said they'll be giving you free hands to do their work. First of all, when there's so much money in one location, everybody tends to be concentrating on that location, right? What I intend to do is to sign a local government financial autonomy so the monies can go to the local government. So you see, the legislature naturally has so much work to do to enforce and to follow and have oversight function and legislate. So when the money is not at the state level, why would you have a problem with me? What I intend to do at the state level is also create wealth, push policies that can make life better, then use ideas to stimulate the economy, not the IGR or the federal locations that come. They will go to local government. So you go and have your battles at the local government level.
Okay, well, I think we have to stop now. We've extended beyond our time. Thank you so much, Paul, for coming, and we sincerely wish you all the best.
Thank you so
aspiration.
much.
Congratulations in advance.
Thank you so much.
And have yourself a beautiful
Merry Christmas, people.
Yeah. Okay, this is where we'll be drawing the curtain. We'll be seeing you again on Friday for another edition of the program Road to EDO 2024. My name is Daniel Praise Osedebame. Do have yourself a fine season ahead. Bye for now.